Let me tell y'all a little story. Before I started watching the NFL, professional football, I actually played it. My cousin was quarterback, played flag football for our school football team. Unfortunately, I couldn't play because I was too young at the time. But I went to every one of his games and I was enthused by the game. I wish I could have played. And my cousin saw that in my face, so what he would do is bring me to my grandfather's backyard and we would go over the plays. I was able to remember the plays and pick up the formations pretty good, but I had a problem when catching the ball. So he would get frustrated with me and he invented a way for me to catch the ball. He threw it around my private area. And once he did that, I was catching the ball better than Randy Moss, T.O., and Jerry Rice. You could have called me the greatest wide receiver ever that day. However, I started watching the NFL about 85. At that particular time, Rodney Lott was playing safety for the San Francisco 49ers. I loved the way he played. I saw him intercept the ball. I saw him knock the hell out of people, knock the snot out of people. I would see wide receivers go up the middle, and he would knock the hell out of a receiver, make him drop the ball. And so next time that wide receiver came up the middle, he wasn't thinking about catching the ball. He was thinking about Rodney Lott. Rodney Lott was vicious. He was hardcore. He was raw. And I'm the same way. So that's why I like the way he played. I also saw Walter Payton play the Chicago Bears. His nickname is Sweetness because of the way he ran. Sweetness was also vicious. I saw the way he ran over people, the way he blocked. I saw him jump over people. I saw his elusive capabilities. This man was incredible. Anything you needed him to do at the running back position, he can do, and do exceptionally well. I thought, man, if I could be running back, I want to be just like him. Ironically, when I went to high school, North Springs High School in Dunwoody, Georgia, I actually played safety. And the coach let me play running back a couple of times in practice. In fact, I still remember the last play I ran. It was a toss sweep to the right. I got the ball. I waited for the wide receiver to make a block on the corner. Passed him up. Got past the linebacker, but he grabbed my jersey after I passed him. Because that was the only thing he could grab. Because I passed him up. But he pulled me down. And where he pulled me down, on our practice field, this particular part was kind of sandy, because there was no grass there. And I cut my hand on the ground. But I considered it a badge of honor because I got it. And it happened while I was playing football. I still got that scar on my hand to this day. Now, I like the safety position. I like the running back position. People used to make a big deal out of quarterback. I thought, man, the quarterback didn't look sexy to me. From the standpoint of the position. He just dropped back 3, 5, 7 yards and threw the ball to somebody and just hand the ball off. It was that. So I told one of my classmates that one day. He said, well, have you heard of a man by the name of Randall Cunningham? I said, no. He said, well, look, check him out tonight. He plays for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's on Monday Night Football. I saw the game that night. I was an instant fan. I saw Randall Cunningham throwing the ball for 60 yards. I saw him scrambling, jumping over people, stiff-arming people, running over people. And I thought, God damn, that's the way the quarterback position should be played. And I thought to myself, well, why aren't a lot of quarterbacks playing in that position? But then I found something particular. I found Randall Cunningham was black. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, let me see what other black quarterbacks are playing in the league. I found Warren Moon, but after that, it was like nobody else. So I thought to myself, well, why are there so few black quarterbacks in the league? So I started to ask around and do my own little research about the history of the NFL, and in particular, the quarterback position. Well, as far as the history is concerned, I found out at one time or point, black people weren't allowed to play in the NFL. Then when we were allowed to play in the NFL, we could only play certain positions. We could only play safety, wide receiver, running back, outside linebacker, stuff like that. But as far as inside linebacker, center, left tackle, quarterback, there are people who thought those positions were too cerebral for black people. So over time, there were players who took that notion and threw it in the trash can. Unfortunately, the quarterback position is the last stronghold. The quarterback position is the position that puts a player in the role of the team captain, the leader of the team, an extension of the coach. The quarterback is the main person who will get the endorsements. He's the face of the team. And 9 times out of 10, he gets the biggest and the longest contracts. So things started to make sense to me a little bit. But I dug a little deeper. And I found a quarterback by the name of Eldridge Dickey, who was drafted by the Raiders in '68. He beat out Kenny Stabler at the time. But after beating out Stabler, he was switched to wide receiver for no apparent reason. This led to Mr. Dickey's depression and drug abuse. I also found another quarterback that same year, '68, by the name of Marlon Briscoe, was drafted by the Denver Broncos. Now, during his rookie season, he started the last 5 games where he had a rookie record of 14 touchdowns. But he was switched to wide receiver, just like Eldridge Dickey, for undisclosed reasons. Now, this is insane if you think about it. Why would quarterbacks who were doing so well constantly switch to another position? Then I found a quarterback by the name of James Harris, who was drafted in 1968, picked up in the 8th round by the Bills. He was the first black quarterback to start a season. And after 3 years, he was traded to the Rams, where he went to the NFC Championship in '74, was the MVP of that season's Pro Bowl. Then I found one more black quarterback. His name was Joe Gilliam. He was drafted by the Steelers in '72. And even though he had a 10-1 season, he faced death threats and a ton of racial remarks from his own fans because he was a black quarterback. During that 10-1 season, he was benched for Terry Bradshaw for an undisclosed reason. I'm being facetious. It was due to racial tensions and also the caving in by the organization and the coach. They put Terry Bradshaw in, and everybody knows how that story goes. The multiple Super Bowls they won afterwards. So imagine you being a black quarterback who's better than Terry Bradshaw, but he goes on to win Super Bowls. That should have been you. This led to Mr. Gilliam's drug abuse and depression also. I found Warren Moon, as I mentioned earlier. He graduated from the University of Washington, but unfortunately he was ignored by the NFL upon graduation. So he went to the Canadian League, where he played for the Edmonton Eskimos and won 5 consecutive Grey Cups between 1978 and '82. His success led to the Houston Oilers picking him up. During his tenure with the Houston Oilers, he also faced a ton of racist remarks by his own fans. His family even heard the racial comments while they were in the stands watching him play. Imagine that, your own fans calling you out of your name, and all you're trying to do is bring a championship to that city. He almost did. In January 1993, he went to the AFC Championship, where he lost to the Bills in what is dubbed now as the greatest comeback in history. But I went back and looked at the game recently on YouTube, and I saw a pass interference call that wasn't called. Y'all can go watch it. That's another story. However, we did have a black quarterback who did win the championship in 1988. His name was Doug Williams, and he played for the Washington Redskins. I remember watching that game, and I was so proud to see a black quarterback win the championship. I thought that stigma about black quarterbacks was gone. I thought it was over. It wasn't, and it still isn't. I'm originally from New Orleans, born and raised, but as you might have guessed, I was a big-time Saints fan. Yes, I watched the Saints, even when we were called the Aints. I didn't put any bags over my head or anything. Like a lot of Saints fans, I was a loyal fan. Watched every game, even when I knew they weren't going to the playoffs. Still watched to the last play. I was thinking, man, maybe one day the Saints will draft a black quarterback. And I really believe that they would. I moved to Tallahassee in 1993. And during that time, there was a quarterback by the name of Charlie Ward, who was playing for the Florida State Seminoles. This man was a national champion. He was a Heisman Trophy winner. He was a model citizen. Didn't have any off-the-field troubles at all. He played baseball, he played basketball, and he was a tennis player. This man was an incredible human being and an incredible quarterback. I thought for sure in the 1994 NFL draft that he would get picked up by somebody, but I was hoping that the Saints would get him. I was like, the Saints need this dude. So you can imagine my high level of festivity as I was watching the draft, and I constantly heard these commentators talk about his height. Oh, he's not tall enough to see over his offensive lineman. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell are they talking about? This is the same league that had Doug Flutie in it playing quarterback between 1986 and 89 for the Pats, Bears, and Rams. Now, Doug Flutie is listed at 5'10" with stilettos on. So how you gonna tell me that Charlie Ward couldn't play? I saw the man in person. He's at least 6'1", legit 6'1". But unfortunately, he wasn't drafted. I thought Charlie Ward would have been a tremendous asset to the NFL, not just as a player, but as a person. But unfortunately, I never get to see that. I was hoping the Saints would pick him up, like I said earlier, but they didn't. In between 1994 and 2000, listen to the quarterbacks they had. Heath Shuler, Billy Joe Tower, Billy Joe Hobert. I guess if your name was Billy Joe back then, you could play quarterback for the Saints. Huh? Jim Everett on the downside of his career. Doug Nussmeier. What? However, they did get a black quarterback to start, Jeff Blake initially, but then Aaron Brooks took over. I remember seeing Aaron Brooks win our first playoff game. Everybody was excited in the city. The city was just buzzing. And even though we didn't go any further in the playoffs, we felt like we had a quarterback who was legit. However, I was pissed off when I heard that the next season, the coaching staff told him, okay, we don't want you to use your legs anymore. We just want you to use your arm. Now, why would you take a weapon away from him when he enjoyed success with both his arm and his legs? Speaking of Aaron Brooks, he had a cousin by the name of Mike Vick, who went to the Saints' arch rival, Atlanta Falcons. He was picked the first overall in 2000. Now everybody knows the story about Michael Vick and the dog fight thing. But what I want to highlight is that $130 million contract he signed. And it seems like his troubles didn't start until after that. He was a black quarterback who was the face of the league, making more money than Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. It seemed like when that contract was signed, that's when the dogs was called out on him. No pun intended. I remember I met LSU quarterback Rohan Davey. I talked to him for a little while. We chopped it up. Real cool, bro. He was drafted by the Patriots in the 4th round, 2002. And I was hoping I'd get to see him start. Unfortunately, he didn't. But he did go to the World League where he won the World Bowl and was the MVP. So afterwards, I was thinking, man, somebody should pick him up. You know, even if he's on the bench for a little while, second string, somebody's gonna get it. They never did. Until this day, I still wonder why. I remember seeing one of the greatest college games I've ever seen in my life. The University of Texas versus USC. The University of Texas was headed by Mr. Vince Young. USC had Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, some other players. Commentators, all kind of people. They just didn't give the University of Texas a chance whatsoever. They basically gave the championship to USC. All the footage and all the spotlight was on the USC players. However, Mr. Vince Young put the University of Texas on his back and led them to victory. So I was thinking to myself, Lord, I can't wait to see this dude act like ass in the NFL. During the draft process, though, he fell under a lot of scrutiny, which I thought was some bullshit. At first, they said his Wonderlic scores were too low. They understated him. Then they tried to clown him for not wearing a suit when he went to see the president. However, the real story was one of his teammates couldn't afford a suit. So Vince took his suit and gave it to his teammate. Then they sat back and criticized him because of the agent that it took. Now, the agent was an attorney and a family friend. And I felt, why would you sit back and criticize somebody like that? I mean, the agent is supposed to be somebody you trust, so why not a family friend? Crazy, huh? Now, Vince Young was a protege of Steve Air McNair, who got drafted by Tennessee. No, I'm sorry, by Houston Oilers, who eventually became the Tennessee Titans. Now, what was supposed to happen was Vince was supposed to be drafted by Tennessee, and Aaron McNair was supposed to be the person to bring him along. And Vince was supposed to be his heir apparent understudy. Well, what ended up happening is Aaron McNair was kicked out of Tennessee and traded to the Ravens. However, Vince was still drafted because the owner wanted him. And unfortunately, Coach Fisher did not want him, which led to some turbulent times in Tennessee. Ain't that sad when your coach don't want you? Speaking of coaches having a problem with their quarterbacks, I saw Mr. Quincy Carter, who graduated from the University of Georgia, get drafted by the Cowboys in 2001. When he started, he had a 10-6 season, 2003. So when that occurred, I thought to myself, well, man, Bill Parcells is going to throw his arm around this kid and say, look, man, I'm just going to put some weapons around you for you to be successful. Bring us the championship. Instead of that, what Parcells did was get Drew Henson at quarterback, Vinny Testaverde, who Parcells loved to death. And everybody knew it, and he made no bones about it. And also Tony Romo. Now, some people say the best time to test a person is with competition. But at the same time, you have to know your personnel. Some people need a good foot in the right direction. Some people need positive motivation. Some people need to know that you have their back. Quincy Carter struck me as a person who needed somebody to know that, hey, look, I got your back, man. I got you. I'm behind you 100%. To me, Bill Parcells did not do that. Everybody had an idea once Vinny Testaverde came in that Parcells was going to favor Testaverde, which he did. And unfortunately, Darren Woodson, who was a stalwart from the championship era with Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, advocated for Tony Romo to start. So Quincy Carter was in a position where his coach wasn't behind him. And some of the veteran players were not behind him. So he cracked under that pressure and intensity. He ended up getting traded to the Jets, but at his time with the Cowboys, he started experimenting with drugs. He was never the same. There's a documentary on YouTube about this whole situation. Please find it and watch it. It'll give you some details. Deja vu happened when I saw a quarterback by the name of RG3 from the University of Baylor get into the NFL. He was drafted by the Redskins, but the trip thing about it is another quarterback was drafted in that same draft in the 4th round by the name of Kirk Cousins. Now, once again, just like Vince Young, this is why I said deja vu. The owner wanted him, but the coach didn't. In fact, after the draft, I was going back and forth with this dude on YouTube. And I told him, man, I've never seen anything like this before. Why would they draft RG3 in the 1st round, but then draft Kirk Cousins? He was like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Hey, they doing the right thing. They just want to back up in case I have RG3. I'm like, man, look, no. When you get somebody at quarterback in the 1st round, you need to get some weapons around them. Left tackle, tight end, workhorse running back. You don't get another quarterback. Then I thought about Vince, and I told the guy, I said, look, in 3 years, RG3 will be gone. That dude told me he didn't know. I didn't know what I was talking about. So once RG3 was let go, I found that dude on YouTube, and I texted him, told you. I saw Tim Tebow from the University of the University of Florida, get drafted by the Broncos, 2010, 25th pick overall. However, a lot of the commentators had him picked to go in the 3rd round at best, but he was drafted first. He was drafted first, but he was the 3rd string quarterback for Denver's team. They had Orton and they had Brady Quinn, who was a former 1st round draft pick. Now, Orton didn't do that good. He was 0-4. Now, last time I checked, my mathematics tells me after 1 comes 2. But not in this situation. Because there were some fans who put up a billboard during the recession asking for Tebow to start. So this prompted the coaching staff to totally skip over Brady Quinn and go to Tim Tebow. They changed the whole offense around, the blocking scheme and everything for Tim Tebow. Now this tripped me out because I saw many of black quarterbacks go to teams and that quarterback had to conform to their system instead of the team conforming to the skill set of the quarterback. Now, the only time I saw the latter was in Philly with Donovan McNabb. Andy Reid did a masterful job of bringing Donovan McNabb along, and there was a lot of success there. But here was the first time I saw the game change for a player. I saw Cam Newton from the University of Auburn get drafted. First round, 2011 in Carolina. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning him was because his owner, Jerry Richardson, told him he didn't want him to have any tattoos or body piercings on his body parts, even the ones that he can cover up. So what the hell was this about? This is the same team that had Jeremy Shockey, who was tattooed down from neck to toe. But now you go tell Cam Newton, a grown man, that he can't have tattoos on his body or body piercings? Where was the union? Where was Roger Goodell? Speaking of Roger Goodell, since his reign, he's been on certain issues like domestic violence, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, breast cancer. But what I found strange is that why wasn't there a highlight on prostate cancer? Over 70% of your personnel are black males, and prostate cancer affects black males disproportionately. So why not talk about prostate cancer? Now, I'm not saying there's not anything wrong with fighting against breast cancer. I'm all for that. But I'm saying since mostly black males play this sport, why not use this platform to attack prostate cancer and bring more awareness to prostate cancer? In addition, since the invention of the camera on the cell phone, there's another issue that affects black males disproportionately, and that's police brutality. Now, the NFL hasn't done anything to bring awareness to that, but there's a man who did. His name is Colin Kaepernick, and he took a knee against police brutality. Now, when he did it, everybody lost their mind. Oh, he's disrespecting the flag and the troops because he did this during the national anthem. He came out and said, look, it's not about the national anthem, it's about police brutality. And those people who came out against him felt stupid because even veterans came out and said, look, this is what we fought for this man to have the choice to protest. However, right now, he doesn't have a job in the NFL because of the stance that he took. But let's take a walk down memory lane and reminisce on a couple of things. There's a couple of people I want to highlight. I want to start with Bill Romanowski. Many of you may not know him, but look at the list of infractions that this man has had. And in addition to that, this man has been called a racist during his career and even upon his retirement. In fact, he called Cam Newton a boy in a tweet after Newton's team lost in the Super Bowl. In addition to that, he was fined a total of $42,500 for 3 illegal hits plus a punch thrown at Kansas City Chiefs tight end Tony Gonzalez. He was also fined an undisclosed amount for throwing a football at Brian Cox with the New York Jets. The ball hit him in the crotch area. I think one of his worst and most egregious acts was this. In 2003, Romanowski attacked and injured one of his teammates, Mr. Marco Williams, played tight end for Oakland, and during the scrimmage, he was confronted by Williams after play, ripped off his helmet, and Romanowski crushed his eye socket with one punch. This forced Marcus Williams to retire from the game. Now, who would want to play with somebody like that? Who would want somebody to be their teammate? Who would want this man, Romanowski, to be their teammate? You talking about a hostile work environment. Not only is he attacking opposing players, but he's attacking his own damn teammates. Why wasn't he ever kicked out of the league? How was he able to go to different teams like Frisco, Philly, Oakland, and Denver? People overlook that. Another person I want to highlight is Rush Limbaugh. Now, I remember years ago, I kept hearing the name Rush Limbaugh, but I didn't know what he was about. I was driving around New Orleans one time and I saw a billboard with his face, and it said that he had a show that was coming on WVUE Channel 8. So, after the news, I thought to myself, man, let me go peep out this show. So when I turned it on, the Rodney King beatings was on. And the police officers were all around him, hitting him with batons, and his arm was waving, asking for them to stop. And Rush comes in and says, "Look at him, ladies and gentlemen. Look at him. He's trying to escape. He's trying to leave. He's trying to get out of there." So the cops had to do what they had to do. They just had to do what they had to do to subdue this man. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So now let me turn this damn clown off. So you can imagine how I felt when I heard that the NFL was going to allow him to do some commentary. But I thought to myself, you know what? This fool's going to put his foot in his mouth. It's just a matter of time. And true to form, he did. He was quoted as saying, "The NFL all too often looks like a game between the Bloods and the Crips without weapons." Wow, ain't it? He had another quote in 2003 about Donovan McNabb. He said, "I'm sorry to say this. I don't think he's been that good from the get-go. I think what we've had here is a little social concern. I think the media has been very desirous that a black quarterback do well." Now, why would he say that? That makes no sense. But that's Rush. Another person I want to highlight is Mr. Hank Williams Jr. On June 5th, 2017, the New York Times wrote that Hank Williams Jr. is coming back to Monday Night Football. Now, this is a person who's supposed to be gun-ho America. He just loved America so much, but he dodged the draft. Ain't that something? He was also quoted in an Iowa State Fair performance, where he said, "We've got a Muslim president," referring to Barack Obama, "who hates farming, he hates the military, he hates the U.S., and we hate him." But this is somebody who's coming back to the NFL to do music for him for Monday Night Football. This is who you bring back. Colin can't get a job, but you bringing him back. Okay. Next person is Richie Incognito, drafted in 2005 by St. Louis. He ended up going to the Dolphins, where he sent text messages and voicemails with racial slurs, threats of violence, and intimidation against fellow lineman Jonathan Martin, which forced him to leave the team. That's interesting. Very interesting. So we could get this tolerated in the NFL, but Colin can't get a job. Next person I want to bring up is Riley Cooper, who played for the Philadelphia Eagles and was quoted as saying at a Kenny Chesney concert, "I would jump that fence and fight every nigga here." Did he forget he played with a bunch of niggas? This incident was caught on videotape. So there's no taking this out of context or anything else. But of course, what he did, blaming on alcohol. My mom always said, "Drunk mind speaks a sober soul." I remember I went to go take my son to get his hair cut in the New Orleans area. And I went to a barbershop off of David Drive. and I had a Pittsburgh Steelers throwback jersey on. So I went in the barbershop. I saw two Saints players. I'm not going to say their names. But I sat down next to one of them. And I started clowning with him a little bit. I said, man, look, don't beat me up. It's just a jersey, man. It's a throwback. And he immediately looked at me with a straight face and said, man, it's just a job. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, how can you say it's just a job? To me, it's a dream job. A lot of dudes I know wish they could be in the NFL with the 3 letters on your chest. Come on, man. This is the dream job. You supposed, you doing it. What's up? That's what I was thinking to myself. But I think now I know what he's talking about. I think now I really understand what's going on. And I think Colin Kaepernick knows what's going on too. That's why he did what he did. People don't understand that Colin Kaepernick took a knee because American citizens are getting killed by police. Regardless of the color of the person's skin, these are American citizens. Men, women, and children. American citizens. Now we can go all over the world and fight for democracy and kill evil dictators and everything like that to free other people. But yet we have American citizens who don't want to stand up for American citizens being killed? So this situation prompts a couple of questions in my head. Number one, is the NFL a plantation? Is the field that they play on the cotton patch? Is the press box where the owner is that like the big house? Or the referees, the overseers? Come on. I have another question too. Is it that the NFL doesn't take an approach with fixing problems in the hood because that's where the best crop comes from? Think about it. Some of these dudes in the NFL come from the dysfunction of the hood. And they sit back and look at the NFL as a savior. A lot of the best players in the NFL come from those conditions where they look at the NFL as a savior and say, look, man, I got to make it in the NFL. So I'm going to do these extra push-ups. I'm going to do these extra reps. I'm going to run the extra 2 miles because I want to do everything I can to make it in the league so I can get my mama out of this condition, so I can get my siblings out of this condition, so we can live in a big house, so we can get out of here. Is that why they don't want to do anything? Because they want to keep that condition going so they can get this particular crop of player? I've been watching the NFL for years, and I've been seeing a lot of shiesty shit go on. And sometimes, it's like a girlfriend that you see do some things. You're like, okay, I'm going to let that slide. I'm going to let that slide. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to put that to the back burner. But then finally some stuff happens where you go, I can't take this. I got to make a stand right here. And that's why I am with the NFL after all these years. And I got to say right here, right now, I'm taking a stand. I'm with Cap. There's been a couple of preseason games played. Regular season is coming up. I haven't watched any of the preseason games. And I haven't bought anything from NFL sponsors. I looked them up online. And I'm telling you like this. If Cap ain't playing, I'm not watching any of the damn games. None of them. I'm with you, Cap. Stay strong, homie.